Okay, good afternoon for those who are attending this seminar live in Japan and the rest of Asia. This is Takeo HOSHI, Director of Tokyo College, and also the moderator for today's talk. And as usual, today's webinar is in English, but it comes with a simultaneous translation into Japanese. So if you want to listen to this webinar in Japanese, select your preferred language to set your preferred language to Japanese using the interpreter button or tsuyaku button in your webinar application. And many of you have attended Tokyo College webinar before, I hope, so you know what Tokyo College is. But just to make sure, Tokyo College was created within the University of Tokyo in 2019 with the purpose of generating new knowledge to contribute to the creation of an inclusive society. So that's our goal. And under the slogan, Shaping the Future Together, we have been inviting distinguished scholars and intellectuals from various parts of the world and in various disciplines, and having them give webinars like this. And part of our activities, including these webinars, are supported by your generous donations. Before this webinar has started, you must have seen our standby screen that contains QR code. So if you scan the QR code, you can reach the website where you can donate to the Tokyo College. So if you missed that, I think we will show that at the end of this webinar as well. So if you want to support us, you can just scan the QR code. And I hope you find our seminars useful, and I hope you can continue supporting us. So now, today, we have another special distinguished professor here at Tokyo College. Professor CHEN is Carl Richard Soderberg Professor of Power Engineering at MIT, or Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and a leading expert in heat transfer and energy systems. He earned his PhD from UC Berkeley, another very good or great research institution, in 1993, and has been with MIT since 2001. Before he joined MIT, he held faculty positions at other top universities in the US, including Duke and UCLA. His research focuses on micro and nanoscale heat transfer, thermal management in electronics, and clean energy and water technologies. Professor Chen is especially widely known for his achievements in linking fundamental physical science with innovations that address urgent challenges in energy efficiency and sustainability to help our daily life. And because at Tokyo College, we advocate connecting academic research to the general society, we really admire Professor Chen's work in connecting academic research results to the useful knowledge, as a useful knowledge to the society. And Professor Chen, or I can say Gan.
Yes, please.
Has been visiting Tokyo College since this summer, and he's giving a talk today. And today's talk is titled MIT Education, Research, and Entrepreneurship Ecosystem. He will talk about how the ecosystem at MIT, where he has been affiliated for the last quarter of a century, has been helping him and other scientists to bring innovative ideas to the real-world applications to improve our lives. For the commentator today, we have Masahiro Sugiyama. He's a professor at the Institute for Future Initiatives at the University of Tokyo. Masa is a climate scientist and an expert on climate and energy policy here at the University of Tokyo. And I will ask Gan to talk about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we will go into discussion. And for the audience of the webinar, you can write in questions using the Q&A function of the Zoom. And you can do this during the talk or during a discussion. And I will be watching Q&A on the webinar screen and select good ones to share during a discussion. Since we are talking about MIT today, I need to mention both Masa and I have degrees, PhDs from MIT. And I don't think our discussion today will be biased too much, but some of you in the audience would be free to discount our praises for MIT, given we are both from MIT. So with this disclosure, let's start. Gan, please.
Konnichiwa. Thank you, Takeo. Sorry, I'll just call you Takeo Masa.
Yeah, fine.
So thank you, Takeo, for inviting me to Tokyo College and hosting my seminar today. And I want to say I truly enjoy my stay so far at the University of Tokyo, and especially at Tokyo College. It's a very stimulating place, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. And as you already said, in fact, you have MIT rings, and I don't have one, so I can brag about the MIT. So today I will share my personal observation as at MIT, and I feel that even though I will brag about MIT, but given its unique culture, I think it's good to share. And I know in the audience there are many, people coming from distinguished and famous universities. And I hope you don't mind me sharing what my personal observation, what I believe makes MIT a unique institution in the world. So let me share some slides. I hope it's okay. So
yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. So I'll use some examples and about the research, education, and the entrepreneurship aspect. But let's first introduce where we are. And MIT is an institution on the East Coast of United States, and it's located in Massachusetts and in the town of Cambridge. The Cambridge across the river is a much bigger city, Boston. And in Cambridge, there are MIT and the other competing sister institution, Harvard universities. So MIT was founded in 1861. The campus is pretty small, let's say 0.68 kilometers square. We have only about 1,000 faculty members and 4,500 undergraduate students. Essentially, we're taking about 1,100 undergraduate students every year. And we have over 7,000 graduate students and 11,000 employees in total. And it's a small institution by size, but if we look at the Nobel Prize winners, we have, associated with our students, our faculty, 105 Nobel Prize winners, and 14 of them now are on MIT faculty. And in fact, after Second World War II, half of the Nobel Prize winners are associated with MIT. And then we have 64 National Medal of Science winners and 34 National Medal of Technology winners. So those numbers shows the innovation and fundamental research of MIT students, MIT faculty. But on the upper side, I also quoted a study by MIT Sloan School professor Robert in 2009. This study showed that MIT students, MIT alum, and the faculty funded over 30,000 active companies. And this company in 2009 value created over $2 trillion revenue, annual revenue, which is equivalent to 10th world economy. So the societal impact is also huge. And in fact, if you look on the East Coast, the high tech, of course, we know on the West Coast, there's Silicon Valley. On the East Coast, there's a famous 128 corridor, and that is the highway surrounding Boston. Say on the two sides of the highway are all high-tech companies, very much relate to because of MIT and other institutions. And MIT motto, if you look at the seal MIT, we have here mens and manas. And since the founding of MIT mens and manas means mind and hand. MIT emphasized not only say mind, but also actually translation to create. And the other thing that's I'm very proud is you can say on the seal we have a scholar and also Iron Smith. And the Iron Smith is actually a lady, a female. And in fact, currently on MIT campus, 50% of students are female students. So if I think about research, summarize research, probably the best, simplest is this plot that my own department head who hired me, Professor Lam Su, he was department head and later on became the president of Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. He liked to draw this impact curve, the U-shaped impact curve. And on the horizontal axis, the one side is basic research, on the other side is applied research. As you can say, he would say that you should stay on the two sides and where you can really make the impact. Don't stay in the middle and write a bunch of useless papers. And I think that's a philosophy at MIT, very much see what's the impact in fundamental science and the impact on society, on the real world. And later on, I I added dash line because I feel that the researchers who understand the basic will have more knob to turn when they think about the real world applications. But I very much agree with what Namsu said. So give a few examples of the researchers at MIT. One of these is, them is Professor Millie Dresserhaus. She was my friend, so I put her here. And the MIT Institute professor, MIT has about 10 institute professors. And you can say, she's National Academy of Engineering, National Academy of Science member, National Medal of Science winner. And she devoted her life to do basic research, to study carbon. And from graphite to graphene to carbon nanotube. In fact, she predicted carbon nanotube unique properties before people start to really looking for it. And for that, she was awarded a Kavli Prize. And she's really inspirational because she would get up every day and in her office before 6 a.m., including Christmas, including Thanksgiving. And I started to collaborate with her when I was a faculty member at the UCLA. She would go to attend the Caltech board meeting, and then after that, have a research meeting with me at UCLA, and I would drop her at the airport. In the evening, she would take a say, red eye bag, and her husband would pick her up to bring her to office. So it's just like that devotion. And in fact, the 2012 Kavli Prize was only awarded in nanoscience is $1 million, only awarded to her. Usually 3 people share. And she donated all this to MIT to support female faculty, young female faculty member. It's that devotion I really and she's called the modern Marie Curie, she's called the Carbon Queen, but for me, it's really like an inspiration for many young people because she cares about the young researchers. So that's just one example. And I want to share this other example. He's a colleague of mine in the mechanical engineering department, and he's a member of National Academy of Engineering, National Academy of Medicine, and he was inducted to Inventor Hall of Fame when I served as department head. So I know his story very well. And in fact, one day I was talking to him because he was inducted to Inventor Hall of Fame for inventing artificial skin that help burn patient to regrow skin. And so I looked at his record when I was a department head, and I asked him, because he wrote a lot of papers in 1960s that published in Nature. And after 1970, I didn't see any such paper anymore. So I was curious, I asked him why. And he said, oh, in the 1970s, he started to work with Dr. Burke, who is a professor at Harvard, and focused on burn patient regrew the scar. At the time, it was not regrew skin. It's recovering by forming a scar. So Dr. Burke wanted him to find a way to accelerate that scar formation. And he said Dr. Burke brought him to hospital. And after he looked at those patients, and he decided that he will really devote his work to help those patients. So he said that he failed several years, couldn't find a solution, and in one time the experiment was a complete failure because there was no scar formed at all. And but for him it was like I have to see why that happened. So he went to look at the microscope, and he was pleased to see instead of forming a scar, there was new skin that grew. So that was in 1970, he had this discovery. He spent the next 20 years to really make the commercial available. So this was commercialized in 90s. That was the first artificial human organ, and they helped to save many lives. And in fact, I was hoping that he got a Nobel Prize, but unfortunately he passed away a few weeks ago. But really that kind of devotion. And the last example I want to share in research is Professor Ali Sachs' story. Again, he's a colleague in mechanical engineering department, and he actually did his PhD in 1980s on solar cells. And he invented to pull from molten silicon a very thin, like a soap bubble. He pulled, very thin silicon membrane. And that led to later on to 2 startups, okay. But in 1990, 1980, when he became faculty member, he couldn't find funding in solar cell. And so he does manufacturing, and he invented 3D printing. And in fact, this was the first patent of 3D printing. You can see the filing date was 1989. And he told me, why he called the 3D printing was because his father was actually in the printing business. And so he named the 3D printing. And he said that at the beginning, people laughed at him. But now 3D printing is really everybody use and everybody know. And on the right was actually one of the first 3D printing machine he made. And this single technology, changed so much of the world, the manufacturing. He himself started probably 6 or 7 companies on this. And some of this went public. The desktop model is the recent one. I know that went public. And so those are the example. And in fact, if you go check how many papers Ali Sachs published, he didn't publish many papers. And probably in some of the university standard, he won't get tenure. But he was elected in National Academy of Engineering and really make a big impact. So that's on the research few stories. But what I thought that less known is that MIT also very much emphasizes on education and really excellence in both research and education. When we hire a young faculty member, that's one thing I will say. It's not just research. It's both research and education. And MIT spent a lot of energy and innovation in education. For example, we do team teaching. And what does team teaching mean? I teach, for example, thermal fluids, heat transfer, thermodynamics. And then we have 3 professors teaching about 150 students. And we don't divide like each person teach 50 students. We have 1 big lecturer, 1 does a lecture, and 2 other faculty sit in the classroom. So for whoever does a lecture, it's a huge pressure, right? Your colleagues are sitting there and listen to it. And then we divide into smaller class, and the recitations are done by other 2 faculty members. So this recitation in most other universities are taught by graduate students. So this is, we really place a lot of emphasis on education. And so, in fact, I give you a few examples of this teaching. This is in mechanical engineering because I'm in mechanical engineering. This is the sophomore spring semester, second semester sophomore class, where students learn design and manufacturing. And then we make it interesting. We have students build the robots and compete against each other. And this was actually started in the 1970s by Professor Woody Flowers, and it continued today. And you can see this was the 2 professors, Professor Amos Winter and Sanbei Kim, and they have a platform, Hack the Future. So students build a robot. Each side is a platform. Students run the robot and compete against each other. And there are 2 of such platforms. So the final competition was at the MIT Ice Rink. It's an athletic center. The students and also citizens in Cambridge, anywhere they can go and watch this. And every year draw a big audience and make it very fun. And in fact, in 1980s, so some of people probably heard, first robotics competition, and now it started in U.S., but also now it's their worldwide competition. And annually, this is a high school competition, and annually it will attract about 300 to 400, high school, middle school, even elementary school students. So this is Professor Woody Flower, and this is Dean Kamen. And Dean Kamen is a modern inventor, has about 1,000 patents. And right now, we see the scooters, right? He started. He want to change the transportation. And so Dean Kamen, in 1980s, he told me that he's an entrepreneur outside the MIT. He said that President Bush at the time wanted to put in more money in STEM, science, technology, engineering, education, right? But see, he felt it was not the problem of not enough money. It was a problem the education was not interesting. So he started to look across the US to see where is doing interesting teaching. And he found the Professor Woody Flower, and he was teaching this robotics competition class at MIT. So he worked with Woody Flower to do this at high school, middle school, elementary school, and really engaged, say, hundreds of thousands of students every year, say 500,000 pretty much students every year in this competition. Really changed the education. And this example, I'll show another one. This is actually, so you can see our course 2 means mechanical engineering at the MIT. Line is our course number. And this is the final capstone design class. And this is the final presentation. And this is MIT's largest auditorium, Kresge auditorium, that can hold over 1,000 people. And you can see it was full. And in fact, say we had to do lottery because when we first tried this, the ticket was gone in over 10 minutes. So later we did lottery, and it was hard to get the ticket. So this is the final student capstone design. And the professor I showed before, say I didn't say this was Professor Woody Flower. He is really the person behind this class. And so in this class, students have 1 semester. And this 1 semester, they will start, they have a team of 20 students. And Professor Flower only gave a theme. For example, this year's theme could be, say, outdoor. So students will, say, have ideation. What are the product that has a, say, outdoor product that has a market? So they'll do market study. And then they will ideate. And then the 20 students eventually have to agree on 1 product. And this 1 product, they finally will have to make it, and they will showcase in this presentation. And I've seen students bring horse. I've seen students bring, say, patients. And in fact, the video, we don't have enough time, but this is a video of bring a Parkinson's disease patient. Because students develop a watch that can actually, say, seek a signal. And students read the medical journal, and they found that if you give patient the stimulus at certain frequency, they can stop the hand shaking. So they designed a watch and made it and brought the patient to stage and really demonstrate. So this undergraduate class, every year, there are 1 or 2 student team bring their product, start company. MIT actually does not claim any ownership. All, say, intellectual property are owned by students. So the final slide I want to show is about the education is really, this is another example of the impact, right? The MIT open courseware that's free to the world. And this was actually started, say, 2001, right? We know internet started around the 1990s. And at that time, our president, Chuck West, was asking what we should do on online education. So he actually asked our professor, Dick Yue, in the mechanical engineering department, he was the associate dean of engineering at the time, to chair a committee to see what the MIT should do. And Dick Yue did the analysis, his committee did the analysis, and they eventually say, you cannot make money at the time. And the best is to make it free. And so with that, MIT launched the open courseware, raised the fund. The goal is putting every class online. And now 2,000, pretty much all classes, MIT classes, are available online through the open courseware, and over 100 million lifetime visitors, really worldwide impact. And that's the start of free online education. And the right-hand side was MIT grad, right? We always teach our students, go out, change the world. And So-Kang was one of our students in electrical engineering, Bachelor of Science and Master of Engineering. And he worked on consulting firm, but say eventually he started to just start making his own video. educational video. I went to Khan Academy before. I see my children went to Khan Academy, right? It's very easy to understand when there's say 15 or 10 minutes of video. And he himself, just this Khan Academy, has 150 million registered users. Really, say, had huge impact to the society. And that's what we aim at. So my last aspect is talk a little bit about the MIT entrepreneurship ecosystem. Really, translation. MIT has, many organizations to help the translational research. A famous MIT 100K competition started in the 1970s, and the winner team get $100,000 free. Right? And the MIT has, different organizations like Dash Funding Center, Martin Trust Center, mentoring service to help our students and our faculty translate our research into the startups. And the MIT engine is a recent creation aimed at just do venture capital and investing in hard technology. And this was an example when I was a department head that we organized a joint workshop with Sloan School. Sloan is the MIT business school. And we bring our faculty, our students, they bring business school students together. We see how we can translate our research into, startups. And this was Professor Ed Robert, and many of our faculty members were engaged. So giving just two startup example, this was a Commonwealth fusion system. And this is a startup, you can see the website, aiming at commercialized fusion technology. And it was actually starting from undergraduate class in nuclear engineering department. The department chair, Dennis White, told this story. And he was leading a fusion center, plasma center, but the center funding was cut. And so he started teaching class and brainstormed with undergrad student and the design project. And then students realized that now high temperature superconductor, after 30 years, that was invented in the 1980s, over 30 years now, and now it's high quality. It can withstand a high current. And with that, they can have much higher magnetic field that can, say, shrink the size of this tokamak, which confine the plasma. Plasma is, say, 10 to the 6 degree, 10 to the 6 power, so 10 million degrees, right? There, 10 to 7 degrees. Nothing can contain. They use magnetic field. They need a high current. So they found that this high temperature superconductor really can shrink the size by 10 to the 4th order magnitude. And with that, they start fundraising. And the MIT engine led the first round. And the first round is $1 billion seed investment, right? Seed funding, $1 billion. And they are making good progress. I based on what I understand. And we always say, sometimes laugh at the fusion is 30 years, but in this time, it's maybe next year they will have a breakthrough. So that's this is the bad big, right? And the other story is actually from my own group. I had this graduate student, Anurag Bajpayee, and he wanted to start a company. And so at the time, he's working on, desalination technology. But it's a very simple idea that came from a qualifying exam. And he was presenting during his qualifying exam cryogenic cell preservation. He said because of water in the cell, when you freeze, it form ice. Ice break the cell membrane. So so he first take out water using soybean oil. And the faculty member asked, oh, does the salt come out? He said, no. So we said, okay, your thesis is trying to do desalination, find the salt, find the, say, oil that can dissolve fresh water, but the salty water is left behind. And you can then raise the temperature, dissolve more fresh water, and then get rid of the salty water. So, and then cool down and the clean water will come out. So he wrote a paper and got, say, a recognition from Scientific American, but he really wanted to start a company. He went to, this was too expensive. So he went to take a MIT business school class, because our business school faculty come to engineering school and ask the faculty student to go and work with their student to see whether they can help commercialize. So this is actually need a competition, because a lot of faculty students want to do it. And he was able to pursue a team of MBA students, and through a semester, they found that fracking, that say this is by breaking the rock to release the gas, the natural gas. And then now US actually export the natural gas. That's because of fracking technology. But the rock contains a lot of salty water. And that water is more saline than seawater, and there's no technology treated. And this seems to be possible. So the last year, we got a Dutch Funding Center, which aimed at supporting faculty and students to create company in 1 or 2 years. And so he used this money, he did a lot of field work, and then he went to out there and started a successful company. And this is now a $1 billion company, and they are really the most innovative water company. And there's no other water company just say by technology becoming say unicorn in such a short time. So I use this just hope to share some stories in say education and research and in entrepreneurship. I think the being say MIT, I feel that this excellence of people, right, faculty and student, but also the culture. There are a lot of great faculty members in many universities, great students. But I think with the culture ecosystem really is quite unique. And with that, you have impact in knowledge creation in our students' education and the society. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Gan. I think this has been very informative with a clear explanation and lots of examples. So let's start with Masa's reaction to this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Takeo, and also thank you very much again for your excellent presentation and a very, very comprehensive covering research, education, and entrepreneurship. MIT, like Hoshi Sensei said, I was after doing undergrad here at the University of Tokyo, I went to the U.S. and I got a PhD degree from the School of Science of MIT, and also actually I did a master's degree in technology policy at the School of Engineering. So yeah, it just reminded me of my fun days in Cambridge, and I still remember lots of energy and creativity and the fun at MIT. So that's my nice memories. Yeah, thank you very much. You covered a lot of topics, so research, education, entrepreneurship. And I would like to briefly talk about education, and then would like to focus on entrepreneurship innovation aspects. For teaching, so I now teach at this university. And one thing I miss from MIT is really team teaching. And again, talked about a couple of examples that we do team teaching at the University of Tokyo. But I have to confess, I guess at the University of Tokyo professors are busier than MIT counterparts in different way. And I think we are not spending enough time on education, I feel. This is just my guess. I learned a lot from active discussion among the faculty members at MIT. And I have to admit that is not happening as often on this campus. So I think that's something we can definitely improve, and we should improve. And I see clear examples on this campus, which is great. But I think we can go further. And that was, yeah, that's about teaching. On innovation or entrepreneurship, so I have some prepared notes. So I'm just picking up some points from prepared notes. So let me talk about them. So because I now work on climate policy and including climate innovation, so I would like to talk about some deep tech or climate tech. And you again yourself, you're the leading scholar in this field. So I think this is a good topic. And thinking about both MIT and the University of Tokyo, I have 3 key points to summarize my statements. So which goes like MIT: mindful, inspired, and together. I think I'm biased, but MIT. So mindful of differences. Japan, the University of Tokyo have been working hard to improve our innovation ecosystem. I prefer the word system, but anyway, in entrepreneurship, in terms of education, venture finance, deep tech, and innovation policy broadly defined. And some people say there's a Hongo Valley here, right around the street, just like Silicon Valley, maybe on a smaller scale, so Hongo Valley. And we see real progress, which is fascinating. But there's a big difference still. So here's some numbers. In 2024, the US firms closed 14,000 deals, and the venture capital investment was around $200 billion, right? That was more than half of the global VC investment, that's US alone, $200 billion. What about Japan? In 2024, it was 7,800 oku yen, or depending on the exchange rate, about $5 billion. So $200 billion, $5 billion, 2 orders of magnitude. That's a big difference. And this is about the general venture capital investment. But even if we focus on climate and sustainability, I think the situation still persists. So it is a very challenging situation. More concrete examples. There's a list called the Global Clean Tech 100. Basically, they compile a list of 100 promising startup companies every year. And it's global. But we had almost zero, close to zero. No company from Japan in this list until very recently. It started more than 10 years ago, and so there are more than 1,000 companies nominated and listed in this list. But until very recently, we had 0 company from Japan. By the way, I just learned there are 2 companies in this list from Professor CHEN's group. So I think this is an indication that this list is something. And this is not the only thing we should care about, but these are 2 metrics we can look at. So mindful of the differences. And it's not that we are bad or anything, but we just have to look at the numbers, and we have to think about it. That's the first thing. And second, inspired. Get inspired and stay inspired. So what I mean is whenever we hear the story by, just we heard from Gian, we tend to think, oh, we have to learn from MIT and Cambridge and everything is so great over there. We have to copy and paste. No, we should not. We should learn very enthusiastically from them, and there's so many things to learn. But United States is different. It's not Japan. Boston, Cambridge, it's different. Tokyo is much bigger, and it's a different place. And actually, there's a very influential concept in innovation policy, innovation studies. It's called the National Innovation System. And some people even use the word regional innovation systems. This has some history at the University of Tokyo. Professor Emeritus Akira Goto, he was one of the key academics who contributed this concept of national innovation systems. I'm not going to explain this in detail, but in a nutshell, each country is different. Each country has its own strength, and each country has its own weaknesses. And it's difficult, very difficult to change it rapidly. So we have to keep investing, and we have to keep improving the way we do innovations. And there's so many things we can learn from MIT, Cambridge, Boston, and more broadly from the United States. And even about undergraduate education, team teaching, I briefly talked about, Gan Sensei talked about. But we just can't copy and paste. And I think we did quite often, we just do that mistake because the numbers are staggering, and it's so brightening on the other side. And lastly, together we shape the future. And I think that's the spirit of the Tokyo College. MIT and the University of Tokyo have a long tradition of collaboration. And it is so wonderful to have Professor Gan Chen here. But there have been a lot of individual level collaboration. And also even at the top level, we have been collaborating. So there in the area of sustainability, there was what we call Alliance for Global Sustainability. It's not just between MIT and the University of Tokyo, but also ETH, Zurich, and also Chalmers joined us later. And actually Chuck Vest, President Chuck Vest contributed a lot to this initiative. And it started with the workshop at MIT in 1994. And actually my institute now is basically keep doing something inspired by Alliance for Global Sustainability. So I think this is a great opportunity, and now we should stay inspired, and we can work together with a wonderful professor like Professor Gan Chen, and we can move forward. Climate is a serious issue. Right now, there's an international conference, a negotiation going on in Brazil, and as you can feel, it is, we are at a critical juncture, and we need more innovations, and we need more contributions from universities like MIT and also ourselves, the University of Tokyo. So to close, mindful, M, mindful differences, I, inspired, T, together, MIT. That's my comment. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Masa. That's very, very well done. And we are getting lots of questions from the audience today, and I don't think we can cover all of those, but let me start with this very good question. This is, in a sense, a follow-up question to what Gan mentioned. You mentioned over 30,000 companies started by MIT alumni. And do you have an approximate idea of what percentage of that is related to the research at MIT? In other words, is entrepreneurship more about how MIT translates research to real-world input or impact, or more about how MIT education or educates its students to have entrepreneurship?
That's a really good question. First, I admit that I don't have the number, but just the gut feeling, right? I think if we think about 30,000, say active company, it must be because of alums, right? And our students. I think I know our faculty start a lot of company. In fact, once I was sitting with a colleague of mine in the same department, and because MIT has a lot of startups, so I was curious to ask him. I said, "Have you started a company? Do you have a company?" I was shocked to hear, "Oh, I forgot the exact number, but something like I have 15 companies." And a few years later, same situation, we sat together again. I just remember that. And I asked, and my real feeling is my real question is how many left because he said 15, right? And he said, oh, you told me of this. Oh, he said that like I have 25 startups now. And and then a few years ago, I was telling others in front of him, and he said, oh no, I have 30 or 35 something. So we have those serial faculty member, but in terms of 30,000, right? I'm pretty sure it's not all just by our faculty. I think it's that culture that will cultivate our students going on. And in fact, I would say more and more, we see that students now, they go to startups rather than going to big companies. I would say that's actually a trend. Even at MIT, we see increase in trend.
Okay, good. And let me follow this up with my own question. We know MIT is great. We know that. But there are many other schools, other universities in the US, which also have academic excellence, research excellence, and good education and entrepreneurship, or entrepreneurial students, like UC Berkeley, your alma mater, Stanford, where I was at, or UC San Diego. Those are all very good universities, which are, in a sense, similar to MIT. Right. And what is unique about MIT?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I say, okay, I graduated from Berkeley. In fact, my advisor was Berkeley chancellor when I was a graduate student. So I think Stanford, I once went to our technology license office director. I said, well, I have this number from MIT, but I think MIT, say Stanford does better, all right, because they have Google, all that, right? I think it's a very comparable, as you said. But see, I worked at Duke, I work at UCLA, right? And I think MIT really emphasize the impact, societal impact. Just give an example. I was a little bit shocked when I first came to MIT in the promotion discussion, right? And on the faculty list, there are sometimes a list of consulting record, right? And at the other institutions, at least at that time, 20 years ago or 25 years ago, consulting was look down, right?
Yeah,
people are like, you're not spending time doing research. And but see, at MIT, I was shocked to see the different attitude. Consulting shows your knowledge is useful, but also shows the real point is the faculty will bring that real world experience to classroom, to our students. Even though, of course, everybody has their confidentiality, but that experience you will translate somewhere, some way into educating a student. So I think that is a very different mentality. And also, like, say, patent application, right? And many universities can actually not afford the cost of patent, right? Because applying a patent costs about $20,000 in US, and most of the patent lose money, right? But MIT has some successful one to cover, and so MIT is very active in the IP protection.
Good. And actually, there's one related question.
Yeah.
MIT, as you said, is located in Cambridge, next to Harvard University, another good university. And this question is, so I wonder whether MIT ecosystem is clearly distinct from Harvard ecosystem, or MIT ecosystem spill over to Harvard, or vice versa, and if there's some synergy between these two great universities.
Right. That's also a really good question. And I have some friends at Harvard. I would say that Harvard also has a lot of very entrepreneurial, say, faculty, and I know some of them, right? But I have not heard from my friends, right, the supporting system for entrepreneurship, right? Like say, we have, like say, business school faculty will come to engineering school to say, hey, I have this startup class. I want your students to come and present and so that we can see whether our business school students are interested. So those kind of, say, cross-fertilization. And then I have this example of gradient analog. And he got this final year support from the Funding Center is geared to spin off, right? And so they gave the money. And then there's also the money he actually took. There are many people who want to invest in him. But there's this donor of MIT, right? And he donated a lot of money, come around the campus and got to know those entrepreneurs. He liked Anurag liked him. They built this relation, and eventually he took a private funding, right? And the term was very good, so they were very successful.
So funding is a really important part.
Yeah, it's a very important
there
part.
There are questions about where these money come from.
Right.
And MIT is good at connecting people to the funders as well. Let's talk about education as well, because there's another question about education or team teaching. You know, this letters on the screens are really small, so I have to put on my glasses. The question is, you mentioned the focus on education and innovative teaching methods like team teaching. And how do you teach students to think critically and learn to work with complexity? Especially now, there is AI that can make thinking lazy or oversimplified. And it would be great to have your thoughts on this. And I would like to welcome Masa to comment on this too. And you talked about team teaching at University of Tokyo, but you know, there's something we can improve. And how do we? What can we do to improve those? So let's start with Gun.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The MIT, particularly in this AI age, we discuss. So this, as a faculty member and as well as say serving as a department head, what I found in our department, at least MIT mechanical engineering, the topic that everybody wants to engage is our education. Because the research, everybody says is so broad, right? Everybody does different things. But when you think about teaching, it's so passionate. Discussion, debate, right? And we try, for example, we even tried half semester course. We say, well, we should be making it really flexible so that student can go out. We tried that and we found it didn't work out. We, as an experiment, we came back, right? So, but say, what I found at MIT is we can really say give student another work. A student won't complain, not in other places, right? This is truly unique. And then this 2-hour line class, students are spending like 40 hours just on one class, one semester, every week, right? And so it's that kind of course, still, this is not necessarily all critical thinking, but say it's through this interaction we teach. But there are always ways to improve. I think I'm not sure we have a fixed way to teach critical thinking, but we always discuss among ourselves.
So how about University of Tokyo? What can we do better? I mean, I have to confess that my students think I'm not putting enough efforts to teaching, but I don't think I'm an exception here. So how can we do better?
So there are low-hanging fruits, and there's, of course, like a deeper problem, a system-level problem. I think low-hanging fruit is, I think we should teach more classes in English because not only for globalization, but because Japanese is a high-context language or high-context culture or a language. So it's not the direct language. And if you say something direct, so if you want to invoke critical thinking, you want to express something critical of some previous statements or previous ideas of somebody else. And if you do that in Japanese, it sounds a bit offensive. But in English, I mean, I think has to do with language itself. And I think and I've seen that somewhere, even here in Japan. So some Japanese start, if they switch to English, they become more critical of each other. Critical in the sense of academic critical and thinking, so which is good. So I think it has to do with the way Japanese behave, and so we have more English teaching. That's courses. That's a low-hanging fruit. Deeper problem, I think it has to do with the allocation of faculty time. At that period, I think we work like crazy, just like you guys at MIT. But I think we are doing something else, and I think we should redirect our time to teaching, education, and research. The statistics shows that. So that's a deep problem, and I don't have an easy solution, but we have to tackle it. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting ideas and useful ideas we need to talk. But unfortunately, we are running out of time today. Thank you very much for a great discussion, Gun, Masa. And we are closing today's talk on MIT.
どうもありがとう。Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.